fearless Lakota chief who helped inspire his people to victory in the historic Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876. But while most have surely heard his name, few know about his incredible story, or his tragic end. Though many of his fellow chiefs across the Great Plains agreed to make a treaty with the U.S. government in 1868, the Second Fort Laramie Treaty, Sitting Bull refused to sign any documents, saying, quote, "I wish all to know that I do not propose to sell any part of my country, nor will I have whites cutting our timber along the river," unquote. Sitting Bull's bold stance made him the supreme leader of the Lakota Sioux, a position no one had held before. And when gold was discovered in the Great Plains in the 1870s, leading to an influx of white settlers onto lands the government had promised not to touch, Sitting Bull decided to stand his ground. Perhaps the most famous Native American...
Alright, first and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Shem, Yahweh Shai, Shem, HaKadosh. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS. Shalom to the old for elect, preaching his word in true sincerity, to your ribs. To your sisters out there learning in silence and staying in order, I say to you all, Shalom. Alright, so I was watching a little bit of that the Sitting Bull documentary on Netflix, and I figured I'd play this clip. You know, I suggest you all watch it. It just shows, you know, the oppression that GAD had went through, right, by Esau. And, you know, it was prophesied for that to happen, right? Because I'm going to read the prophecy on that, because, you know, the scriptures say, you know, the spirit of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy, so we're going to go into some prophecy, you know, regarding this man right here, a warrior from the tribe of GAD, so-called Native Americans. Right, by Esau, he was expanding from the east. He's already, you know, did his thing throughout the east. I believe Trail of Tears already happened. And they were trying to expand to the west, but they had to get through, you know, these tribes. There's like hundreds of Gadite tribes along the middle of the, you know, Babylon, aka America. So stretching millions of miles. So it must have been a really long, hard battle. But you know, Esau was blessed with the dual heaven and with the sword. So, right, the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai gave Esau the victory to lay the foundation for this place Babylon, to then be destroyed later on. So, if the Lord was with GAD, he would have won, you know. But it wasn't supposed to be that way, right? Because the prophecy had to come to pass here, and it would not have happened if GAD was successful, right? As much as we like to root for the, you know, the correct guy. This is Genesis chapter 49, verse 19. GAD, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last, right? So the Lord allows, this is talking about prophecy to all the specific tribes. So each specific tribe has their own prophecy pertaining to where they would be in the later days before Hamashiach Yahweh Shai comes. Right? So pertaining to GAD, you know, the troop shall overcome them. They had this country, you know, from one coast to the other, living peacefully. Well, don't get me wrong, there was tribal fights here and there, but you know, that's in-house stuff. Right? It happens to all the tribes. Right? But the 12 tribes had came here through the Euphrates, through south of Africa, and the Lord had held back the floods, right? Because it was a long journey, about a year and a half, right? Pertaining to Second Esdras. account. Right, how the 10 tribes came here, landed, and spread out. You could also read some of this historically in the book called Lost Tribes and Promised Lands by Ronald Sanders, I believe is the author. Right, so they was living here, but for a moment, so they could keep the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of their ability, right? Because they were just coming out of the Assyrian captivity. So, they wasn't all the way right. But they came here so they could serve the Lord. So when you look at, the Native American ceremonies and, the way they killed and eat animals and dispose of them, it lines up. Right? And a lot of their writing is Paleo Hebrew. Look at the Lost Lunar Stone, the Back Creek Stone, right? A bunch of different evidences that points to GAD being the children of Israel. This place was well established as well, although they tell you they were savages, right? Some of the tribes were travelers. They would go stay somewhere for a season, they build their tents, and then they moved to another place, depending on food and resources. And there was other tribes that stayed where they lived, and they were stationary for the most part. So you had a lot of differences of lifestyle within the tribes, which is pretty interesting, man. Life without Esau is peaceful, right? But Esau is only going to be able to go so far, and he's only going to be able to rule for so long, that eventually there'll be peace on earth like no other. Right? One man's heaven is another man's hell, as they say. Right? But Gad, as it says in the prophecy, that Gad shall overcome at the end. Right? When Yahweh Bashim Yahushai gives the 12 tribes, the elect, their spiritual bodies, right? The Lord is going to then, execute vengeance on the heathen, right? First, Yahweh Shai is going to get his legs, and then he's going to let his children, do away with these wicked nations. This is Jeremiah 51:6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Right? Because he got something coming for all the wickedness and all the evil. Right? Since his inception, he's broken every treaty. Did not, like right where it says in Deuteronomy 28, in the curses, it says that he shall not regard the young or the old. It's lucky I'm in transit, but I'm doing my best. But yeah, when we go to Jeremiah 51, in 20, it says, Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, for with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. Right? After the Lord's vengeance, he's going to allow his children to execute vengeance. Right? Imagine you have a kid, and this kid has been bullying him for a few years in school, and then finally you give your son permission to defend himself, and he whoops on him, and the bully cries, right? That feeling of satisfaction, like Tupac says, revenge is the sweetest thing next to getting cookie, right? But not with the word cookies, with the profane. I don't want to use the profane words or whatever, right? But that's what it's about, to recompense, right, for payback. This is 2 Thessalonians 1:6. Seeing it is a righteous thing with Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. Right? This is a righteous thing that GAD is going to overcome at the end. The atrocities that GAD saw. Right? Not only GAD, but the 10 tribes. I mean, all the tribes. All of them. Yahushai has a record of that. And he gets the first, he gets the first punch, man. And, big bro is nothing to play with. Right? He shall wear many crowns. That's the dethroning of these wicked kingdoms, man. And it's going to be glorious, man. And we almost out of here. Guys are almost gonna have that, that time to sculpt, because when God gets his power, it's gonna be wild. I mean, all the tribes, right? The scriptures say that we're gonna be a threshing instrument. Let me get that actually. Isaiah chapter 41 verse 15. Behold, I will make thee a new sharp threshing instrument having teeth. Thou shalt thresh the mountains, right? So that's how the Lord's going to make us into a weapon, right? And it's going to uproot, governments. These are metaphors, right? It says, thou shalt thresh the mountains and beat them small, and shall make the hills chaff, right? To powder. Call hello Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, man. Lord willing, I am of that number, right? Because this whole E-Files, right? I can't even say the name without, it's crazy, man. Can't even speak the truth because Esau tries to censor it, right? That's another prophecy, right? The famine of the word, right? This is just a precursor that we got to watch our words, so we don't get stricken and the word could not go out. That's what he tries to do. But yeah, man, it's just vexing. This place is vexing. It's tiring, right? This is not our rest. But anyways, man, I don't want to make this super long, man. I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who I learned from. Shalom to those for leg, preaching his word of truth, sincerity. To you ribs, to you sisters out there learning in silence, staying in order. I say to you all, Shalom.